Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start the Cabinet meeting now. I have to read out the guidance, the disclosure of peculiar interests at meetings. I think you've all been circulated with that. And I'm obliged to inform you the meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concern should raise them now. Just a formal notice, couple of added 2 measures. First of all, apologies for absence. We have two. We have Cecilia Motley and Steve Charmley. Item 2, declaration of peculiar interest. Has any member of the Cabinet got any peculiar interest to disclose? No, thank you. Minutes of our last meeting on the 6th of April. Can I sign those to true record of what took place?
Agreed.
Seconded? Yeah. All those in favour of that? That's carried, thank you. Public question times, we have none. Matters referred from scrutiny, there is none. So we move to item 6, which is a proposed homeless strategy for Shropshire, and I'll hand over to Mark Price now to talk and introduce him.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, if I can state the Council has a legal duty to review and publish a new homeless strategy every 5 years. This new strategy replaces the previous one from 2011 to 2015. I'm sure those of you who have looked at it and read it will have picked up that the new strategy is only for 2 years, so I'm expecting someone to say why only 2 years and not 5. The reason for that is because within housing arena the landscape is changing considerably, particularly around welfare, reform and direct payments. So I think it's only right, Leader, that we do a shorter lifespan of this one, and it will be reviewed after 12 months anyway. The new strategy report covers the 10 challenges set by DCLG to acquire a gold standard, and this is something Homeless Options want to aspire to, and I think we'd all agree with that. The challenge is reflected in the action plan. If you look at the back of the action plan, you probably wonder why they all look similar. If you look close enough, you'll see that the needs and the aims of each of the actions remain the same. However, they're followed by different objectives, methods, implementation, and evaluation of each individual challenge. I'm not going to go through them, they're in the report at 1 to 10 and 2.1, 2.5. I'd like you to note that what we're seeing is an increase in inquiries and referrals into housing options, and I actually see this continuing. And I think, again, as I referred to earlier, I think the issues around welfare reform. I also think it's around direct payments. But clearly, the staff are dealing with this and dealing with it very effectively. The report and the strategy indicates that the best way of dealing with homelessness is through early intervention and working together with key partners and organisations. And again, that's something that we do very well. I'm going to be brief. My last thing is to say a big thank you to Lucas Riley, who's sitting in the audience today, for his hard work in pulling the strategy together, and also to the staff on the front line who continue to do an excellent job for Shropshire Council in what I would describe as increasing challenging conditions and pressures. So I'll move the recommendations in 2.1 to 2.5.
Is that seconded?
Yes, also.
Does anybody want to speak to that? No? Also, Roger?
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome it, obviously, because I think it's something that is needed. But if I read it right, there's just one single offer made. I'm not sure whether that is applicable or whether there should be maybe an alternative if for some logical reason it couldn't be accepted. But I also note, if I read it rightly again, that it's only going to appear on the website. Is it going into libraries as well, in places like that, so those who aren't on the web or haven't got access to the web could also see a copy of it?
First one to do with the offer. My understanding is it's always been one offer with regard to those who are in need of homelessness. But of course, don't forget they're allowed to bid also for the properties that they want through the Home Point system. So we're not going to force on people to live in areas where they don't want to be. I think the more important part is when we offer them, particularly in temporary accommodation, it is one offer. It's what we've got available at that time. So I don't see that altering, Roger. When we first came into Unitary, I think you'll recall we had something like 270 temporary accommodation units. We're down to somewhere in the region of 70. I have no intentions of letting that go back up again. But there are occasions when we need to use B&Bs, and that's reported in the report. With regard to the where it's going to be advertised, the web, I'll check with regard to the libraries. I'm not sure, Roger. I'm not going to, unless my man's at the back of the thing. Lucas, any idea, will it be advertised anywhere else apart from the website? I asked you, Chair.
It isn't proposed to be, but
Okay, we'll take the recommendation back, Roger, if that's okay.
Yeah, through you, Chairman, yeah, because it may be that some who this is applying to may not have access to the web, which is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Okay,
Point made, leave it, I'll take it back.
thank you. Anybody else? Karen?
Can I just ask a question, Malcolm?
Yes, sure.
What's the time frame actually in achieving the 10 local challenges towards gold standard? Have we got a time frame on that?
My understanding is within the 2 years of this housing strategy policy, within 18 months to 2 years.
Okay, anybody else? Well, we'll ask, it's been proposed and seconded, we accept recommendations 2-1 to 2-5. All those in favour? Is anybody against? Right, that's carried, thank you. Move on to item 7, the social care system replacement. Please, lead off the portfolio for this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Right, you have a paper before you that we have, in conjunction with colleagues in children's social care, worked through over a considerable period of time, because both the complexity of the system and our approach to it, the need to be certain that we've explored all of the options, and the considerable investment, albeit revenue neutral going forward, but the nature of the risk that presents itself to the authority of the do-nothing option. I think it's also fair to say that highlight that the Ofsted review recently in children's services identified issues around our existing case management system, and part of this approach would additionally address that. By way of background, our current system is some 12 years old. The software operates slightly differently across children's to adults, but it's basically the same core system. The proposal here is a phased approach with an agreement going forward today to design, procure and replace the social care system, including its integration with our finance systems over an 18-month time frame. I think it's fair to point out, you'll see from the options and the work that have been done around each of the options, I have got more detailed risk assessments that have been done around these options, but for those of you who've looked at option 3 versus option 4, and the fact that option 4 carries a higher cost, I would point out that the ability to deliver against option 3 represents a significant level of additional risk. We have, as an authority, struggled with our recruitment of IT support into the council, and I think particularly in the light of that, we have come down on option 4 that is being proposed to you today. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Michael?
Splendid report, Leader. Just a couple of assurances, if I may. As Leah has alluded to, we are currently undergoing IT investigations and reviews in the council. I was just really requiring some reassurance that the review that we are undertaking and this report and the implementation of it will in no way compromise us, either financially or system-wise, platform-wise, whichever we finally decide on.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the potential impact of this replacement with any future replacement of the council's wider IT provision might perhaps be best answered by my colleague who put the report together. Could you come forward, John, and just address the issue around the wider, the impact on wider IT?
I'd like to come down to the table. I have to remind members this is only in principle to look at it and to make the generality of the finance available while we're looking at it. So it's not a proposition to actually go away and do this at the moment.
Thank you. I could offer be very happy to offer reassurance that the proposal to look at this in no way would compromise or act separately from the rest of the intended IT infrastructure that is currently under review. The systems that we're looking at implementing are all based around open architecture, which would interface very effectively with either the existing or whatever current solutions were put in place for the wider IT systems.
Okay, thank you. Madge?
Chairman, I welcome this, I really do, because I think the systems we've got for entering data or trying to extract data when we need it are too complex, too bitty, they've been added on here, there and everywhere. And for a simple soul like me, I like a nice streamlined service, and I think it's probably what we will achieve. I think you brought it home to me last night. We were looking at the West Midland Ambulance quality accounts, and we were discussing with them safeguarding and what has the ambulance service got in place, and the fact that they're going to be able to key into every GP, certainly in Shropshire anyway, and probably the wider, providing they've got basic information. And we explored with them about safeguarding, and if you're called to the same house repeatedly, what happens? And it's all flagged up, and I think that's so important when we're dealing with across the partnership of police, ambulance, GPs, et al. So I really welcome this. A couple of things. Can you explain to me exactly what cashable benefits are? I put one or two interpretations on that, but I wasn't quite sure that I'd actually got there. And could I ask that if this is agreed and finally implemented, that it is rolled out to the social enterprises we've got, and I've got two sort of adjacent to me, one in Clibber Mortimer and one in Highley, where we have really efficient staff there who can pathway people who just come in and drop in and don't know where to go. And I think that that would be quite an important thing to be able to do. Not straight away, but within a timeliness. I think that would be important. Thanks, Chair.
Do you want to answer that, Dave, or?
Yeah, if I could take the second point, I think James best to pick up on the cashable benefits, but we are very keen to work with partner organisations and to provide them with the opportunities to access the resource. So absolutely, I can provide that reassurance. We're going to be looking to work with partners around the use of it. Thank you.
James, do you want to answer the point about cashable?
Okay. Basically, there's cashable and non-cashable savings. Effectively, cashable saving means that we are able to extract money from the budget to deliver that saving. So on a very simplistic level, if you've got 10 social workers doing 10% more work, that's an increase in productivity, which would be a non-cashable saving. If you then say we now only need 9 social workers rather than 10, then that would be a cashable saving. I'm not suggesting that we're going to be changing the numbers of social workers. That's just
I hope not.
just
Not
an
just
example.
yet. Not
Okay,
yet.
thank you. I've got none next.
Thank you, Leader. I thank Madge for the comments. I think I agree pretty well with everything that Madge has said there. My only concern I've got with it, I just want some, and James already just touched on it, is if we read the recommendation that talks about it has to be improved, the budget, so it's not actually in the budget currently. What's the situation? How is that going to be controlled?
Do you want to answer, James?
Yeah. The council's budget was put together and approved in February, and at that point in time, the whole of the IT programme was not in a position whereby we could reflect what those costs were going to be. We were still working through what the cost of the IT would be at that point in time. The remainder of the IT programme, which was mentioned before, was still being worked through, but in relation to the social care system, we're now at a point where we're able to identify what those costs would be. None of those costs therefore have been built into the budget, although back in February we did say that those calculations were being done and they would be brought to Cabinet and then on to Council depending on the values within the future. Within the financial implications section of the report, what it is effectively saying is that we would be funding the cost of this system through internal borrowing, so we'll be using the internal balances of the authority, and what that then requires is a repayment of that investment over a period of time yet to be determined. There are lots of different options in the way in which we would pay for that. So if there are cashable savings, we can use that to fund that cost. There is elements within the capital programme which would fit very nicely in terms of spending, redirecting the spending in that area. There is also opportunities under the changes that were made under the settlement and the budget, the national budget, which allows us to spend capital money in a different way to fund revenue costs. So all of those things together are available to us, but what we haven't done yet is worked out what is the most beneficial mix of those to meet the cost of this, the outline cost that's been laid out in here, because again, there's still further work that needs to be done to get to the bottom of that.
Thank you, James. Roger?
Thank you, Chairman. My question is essentially around cashable benefits, and I did ask a question at Council in December about IT because of the concern. So, in a way, I welcome this because I think we do need to upgrade our IT so that it performs the job that we want it to perform to enable this council to satisfy its legal commitments and to be there for the safety of the Shropshire residents. However, I do have reservations about the cashable benefits. So I see on page 69 of the total report, it's showing that staff efficiency savings of almost £2 million per year from year 2 onwards. I read that in a way that I think can only be read, and I think social workers are a very valuable resource, and if we reduce numbers in social workers, I think we are on a really road down which I do not want to go. So I will be asking for more information and seeking more before this paper goes to council, because I see it is going to council in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time. So hopefully I can understand it better for when it goes there.
Yeah, because it doesn't say anything about social workers as such.
I would want to immediately quash any prospects of you getting any headlines out of this, Roger. We're not talking about reducing social workers. You've got to bear in mind the budget for adult social care has growth built into it. It doesn't involve recruiting additional social workers, so any economies and cashable savings could come out of forecast growth. There are a number of there are significant numbers of personnel involved in arranging both the finance, the audit, the review process internally over and above frontline social work teams. And I think, bearing in mind there's a prospect in 2020 of the second phase of the DILNOT report coming in through the CARE Act, we would be mighty foolish to be looking at reducing social work numbers, because the prospect of us having to conduct reviews to anyone who potentially has care and support needs across the county means that both in children's services and in adult services, we absolutely would not be looking to rationalise frontline social work.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Roger, to clear the point up now today. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add my support really to the direction of travel here. It is quite clear to me that trying to operate with a system that is now 12 years old is not helpful to us, to say the least. It is counterproductive. The way we need to manage the information has moved on in that 12-year period, and it's absolutely vital for the safeguarding of children. I'm speaking on my portfolio, of course. Absolutely vital that we do this. Just a point that Roger's just made, though, page 69, as I read page 69, the table at the top clearly says non-cashable benefits when it's talking about staff efficiencies. So that is not suggested that there's going to be wholesale reductions, given the definition that we've just heard from James a few months ago. But I just wanted to speak in support.
Roger, you're going to come back and say?
Yes, Chair. It's just to say welcome, thank you for those comments about social workers. But the information in the report could be doing and being expanded from my understanding, and that's why I said I would try and understand more and obtain more information before we have a debate at council. But I think it's important that we understand exactly what we are committing ourselves to and how it's going to happen during the next 5-7 years.
Thank you, Roger. Is anybody else want to speak now then? Well, it's been moved.
Yeah, just thank you for the clarification, Roger. I completely understand where you're coming from.
You moved it then, haven't you? Lee, you moved
I
it?
have moved it.
I'm seconded.
And that's seconded, so all those in favour of the recommendation 1, 2. Is anybody against that? All right, that's carried, thank you. We come to item 8, can I have a motion to exclude person public? Moved, is that seconded?
Yeah.
Seconded, all those in favour? Anybody against? Right, that's carried.